Imagine being an investor. You've got capital, you've got ambition, and someone in a suit tells you, "Trust us this time." In Zimbabwe, that pitch has been made before. Many times. And many times, it has ended in tears, currency collapses, policy reversals, seized assets, and midnight announcements that wiped portfolios overnight. So when Vice President Constantino Chiwenga stood before delegates at the Zimbabwe International Trade Fair in Bulawayo and told investors to place their confidence in government commitments, the real question isn't what he said. The real question is, why should anyone believe it this time? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we cover African politics, economics, and the stories that actually affect your money and your future. Today, we are unpacking one of the most significant statements made at this year's Zimbabwe International Trade Fair, and trust me, there is a lot more to this than the headline suggests. Let's set the scene. The Zimbabwe International Trade Fair, known as ZITF, is one of the oldest and most prestigious trade expos on the African continent. Held annually in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe's second-largest city, it draws industrialists, government officials, foreign investors, and business leaders from across the region. It is, in many ways, the country's most visible shop window, the place where Zimbabwe says to the world, "Look at us. Come do business with us." This year, Vice President Constantino Chiwenga addressed delegates with a message that was pointed, deliberate, and clearly crafted for an international audience. He urged investors to have confidence in the government's commitments on policy stability and economic reform. Now, on the surface, that sounds like standard political rhetoric, the kind of thing you hear at every trade expo on the continent. But context changes everything. Zimbabwe has spent the better part of 2 decades battling an image crisis that no PR campaign can easily undo. The land reform program of the early 2000s decimated agricultural output and shattered investor confidence globally. The hyperinflation of 2008, which produced banknotes worth trillions of Zimbabwean dollars that couldn't buy a loaf of bread, became a textbook example of monetary policy failure. Even after the unity government, even after dollarization, even after President Emerson Mnangagwa came to power in 2017 promising an open-for-business era, the country has continued to struggle with erratic policy shifts, a battered local currency, and a business environment that regularly ranks near the bottom of ease of doing business indexes. So Chiwenga's speech at ZITF is not just a speech. It is a signal. It is the government saying, again, that it understands the trust deficit, and that it is actively working to close it. But what exactly has changed? What reforms is the vice president pointing to when he tells investors that the ground beneath their feet is now stable? There are a few things worth noting. The government has made moves in recent years to improve the legislative framework around foreign investment, including amendments to indigenization laws that previously required foreign businesses to cede majority stakes to local partners, a law that had chased away significant capital. There have also been efforts to modernize the Zimbabwe Revenue Authority and streamline customs procedures, reducing the kind of bureaucratic friction that bleeds small and medium enterprises dry. On the monetary side, Zimbabwe introduced the ZIG, the Zimbabwe Gold, as a new structured currency backed by gold and foreign reserves, in an attempt to restore confidence in the local currency system after years of failed experiments. Whether that holds remains a live debate among economists. But the intent, at least, is visible. Chiwenga's appearance at ZITF also carries symbolic weight beyond just economic policy. Bulawayo is the heartland of the Ndebele community, a city that has historically felt politically and economically marginalized compared to the capital Harare. The government showing up to ZITF with senior representation sends a message of national inclusion, that economic growth is not just a Harare conversation. Now, here is where it gets interesting for investors actually watching this space. The African Continental Free Trade Area is creating new corridors of opportunity across the continent. Zimbabwe, If it can get its policy environment right, sits in a genuinely strategic position, it borders South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, and Mozambique. It has significant mineral wealth, including lithium deposits that are increasingly valuable in a world racing toward electric vehicles and clean energy. It has an educated, English-speaking workforce. The bones of opportunity are there. The gap between potential and reality has always been governance. And that is precisely what Chiwenga is attempting to address with statements like the one he made at ZITF. He is not just speaking to the investors already in the room. He is speaking to every fund manager, every multinational, every diaspora entrepreneur watching from London, Johannesburg, Toronto, and Sydney, people who love Zimbabwe, who want to invest in Zimbabwe, but who have been burned before or who are waiting for a more convincing reason to take the leap. The honest assessment? Words at a trade fair are easy. Consistency over time is hard. What will matter more than any speech is whether the policies being promised today are still in place 18 months from now. Whether a new investor who puts capital into a manufacturing plant in Bulawayo or a technology startup in Harare can repatriate their profits without sudden currency controls kicking in. Whether contracts will be honored. Whether the courts will be independent enough to adjudicate disputes fairly. Those are the real benchmarks. And those are the questions that will be answered not at ZITF, but in the quiet, unglamorous, day-to-day functioning of the Zimbabwean state. Chiwenga's message is a start. Whether it becomes a turning point depends entirely on what comes next. If you found this breakdown valuable, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs to understand what is really happening in Zimbabwe's economy right now. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Zimbabwe is genuinely turning a corner, or is this more of the same? We rate every comment. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next one.